I was going to go live, guys, to discuss this, but I thought, let me just do this quick video because it is 6 a.m. in the morning right now. I don't even know how to begin this video. There have been new celebrities that have been added to an already existing lawsuit. We discussed this, the lawsuit of Ashley Parham versus Diddy, where she basically said that Diddy shoved a remote control in her private, and, you know, some very dark allegations. Well, there are a plethora of other people who were apparently there, and this just gets even more dark and twisted. Hey guys, it's Murad Murali, daily and consistent content. Let's get straight into this video. So, in the matter of Ashley Parham versus Sean Diddy Combs, an amended complaint names 2 more plaintiffs and several additional defendants. These are including Odell Beckham Jr., Drewski, Jaguar Wright, Janice Combs, Big Homie, CC, and, you know, a lot more, which we can see. Brandy Cunningham, Keith Lux, Helena Harris Scott, I don't know who those people are, Ruben Valdez, Shane Pierce, Christina Coram, obviously, as we all know, John Pelletier. Now, Odell Beckham Jr. was somebody who was also seen with Bieber in some videos. I believe he even has a boys camp, so, you know, it can get quite sinister. Drewski being dropped in this is shocking, but also Jaguar Wright and Big Homie, Jaguar Wright especially being dropped into this is just very confusing. My head is spinning from this. It truly does not make any sense. This is an amended complaint. Since filing her original complaint, the plaintiff has identified 2 John Doe assailants as Odell Beckham Jr. and Drewski. Defendant Diddy instructed another defendant Doe to also R-word the plaintiff. Defendant Doe has been determined to be defendant Drewski. Instead of immediately R-wording plaintiff, Drewski doused plaintiff with more oil and lubricant and then jumped on top of plaintiff's, private parts and treated it like a slip and slide and knocked the wind out of plaintiff due to his enormous size. Defendant Drewski then caught himself from sliding over plaintiff's whole body off the bed, and he began R-wording plaintiff. Whilst defendant Drewski was R-wording plaintiff, defendant Diddy sat in a chair near the bed and began touching himself whilst recording plaintiff's R-word by defendant Drewski. Another party's phone fell on the bed near plaintiff. Plaintiff then attempted to grab the phone, but it slipped out of her hand and onto the floor due to the oil lubricant that had been doused all over her by defendant Diddy and Drewski. Defendant Diddy began laughing at plaintiff's attempt to grab the phone. Throughout this violent gang R-word, defendant Diddy made constant belittling remarks to plaintiff, including that he owned her. At some point during this ordeal, plaintiff remembers defendant referring to another defendant as Cornelius and remembered the name because it was so odd and unique. Plaintiff has come to discover the defendant Doe, Cornelius, was R-worded by defendant Odell. Plaintiff's body was becoming more and more limp over the course of the violent R-word until eventually she had no control over her body, nor could she move her body. When defendant Drewski finished R-wording plaintiff, defendant Christina Coram entered the room to examine the conditions of plaintiff, who was barely able to move or control her bodily functions. Defendant KK, Christina Coram, examined plaintiff to see if she needed assistance and was about to give plaintiff an IV fluid. Plaintiff cannot be certain if she did or did not receive such, IV fluid interventions. Defendant KK then opened a different bag, different than the one defendant Diddy removed the oil from, where plaintiff observed several medicine bottles, IV fluid bags and other identifiable powder-like substances, and defendant KK then removed a pill from one of the medicine bottles and gave it to Diddy. Diddy then inserted the pill into plaintiff's mouth and down her throat to where plaintiff had no choice but to ingest it. Defendant Diddy, Shane, KK, Odell and Drewski then exited the residence to the backyard where they smoked marijuana and cigarettes. Plaintiff remained in an almost lifeless state in defendant Shane's bedroom until she finally regained her bodily functions. Defendant Diddy did not like plaintiff's response to his light-hearted commentary and offered plaintiff money and instructed plaintiff to say that the violent R-word was consensual and that the plaintiff was actually a worker. Plaintiff became enraged and yelled at Diddy that her R-word was not consensual and that she was not a worker, and she refused to take any money from him and would tell the police that he also R-worded her. Defendant Diddy then told plaintiff no one would believe. Defendant Big Homie CC then showed plaintiff her phone, which looked as if it was the outside of plaintiff's estranged sister's residence, as she could see her sister sitting on the couch and her sister's spouse on the balcony. It looked as if someone was outside the residence streaming this video to defendant Big Homie CC's phone. So they were stalking her. Plaintiff, whilst rattled by what she was seeing on defendant Big Homie CC's phone, was still angry about being gang R-worded and was not complying with defendant Diddy's request to take the money. Defendant Diddy then called defendant Janice Combs in an effort to further convince plaintiff to not report it. Janice yelled at the plaintiff to not hurt her son, and plaintiff told defendant Janice that her son had violently R-worded plaintiff, and Janice seemed unfazed by the statement. I remember we spoke about that in the initial lawsuit. Defendant Diddy then made further threats that he'd gotten off from bigger crimes, referring to Tupac, and defendant Big Homie CC then turned to defendant Diddy and pulled his gun on him, asking him to repeat what he said in reference to Tupac. As the two of them were exchanging words, plaintiff went behind defendant Big Homie CC, where he seemingly began to protect plaintiff. Defendant Big Homie CC then advanced to Diddy, questioning him over the comments he made about Tupac. During this commotion, a neighbor directly across the street came outside, peered into the backyard, and asked what all the commotion was about. Defendant Big Homie CC then pointed the gun at the neighbor and instructed him to mind his business, to which he did. Defendant Big Homie CC then turned the gun back to Diddy. Not far behind, defendant Big Homie CC tried to grab the defendant Big Homie CC's hand that had the gun. The gun then went off and hit a hill behind defendant Shane's residence. Defendant Diddy then ran up the back stone stairs near the hill in the backyard towards where KK was and where Shane and Brandy were. This is so confusing, guys. Plaintiff informed the neighbor that it was Sean Combs who had R-worded her, and plaintiff identified the person who arrived at the neighbor's. Shortly thereafter, a sheriff came at the neighbor's home, and this particular person identified was defendant Pelletier. Plaintiff told defendant Pelletier, believing he was a sheriff from local police, that she had been violently R-worded by defendant Diddy. Defendant Pelletier, falsely posing as a Contra Costa sheriff, told plaintiff and the neighbor they had received several noise complaints, and the sheriff, defendant Pelletier, did not offer to take plaintiff home, nor did he call for emergency services. The Contra Costa sheriffs have confirmed that a police report was made that night by plaintiff Parham. The Contra Costa sheriffs have refused to release any information related to the complaint of the night. Plaintiff observed defendant Pelletier had something to the neighbor, what looked to be an envelope, and at the door as defendant Pelletier exited, the neighbor went to a nearby room and quickly returned empty-handed. Plaintiff believes the envelope contained cash, which the neighbor has taken to obviously run away from this conversation. I'm so confused as to what Jaguar Wright is doing in this. Why has her name... sorry guys, the video is probably quite orange because this is the sunrise. I'm up at 6 a.m. I don't understand why her name is being dropped in this. Odell Beckham Jr. is crazy, and also Drewski is crazy. These are some heinous allegations against him. I don't understand. Also, this lawsuit came out 2 hours ago, this amended lawsuit. Why is this nowhere to be seen? This should be seen as breaking news. Why isn't the Shade Room covering this? Why aren't articles covering this? Maybe they were on 24 hours and we're just early with this conversation, but I'm absolutely dumbfounded by this. Shocked and saddened, because this was a very dark case when we read about it, and now Ashley has come back to identify these people, saying that Drewski and Odell were two of the people who were basically R-wording her alongside Diddy, and that Big Homie CC was there as well. Janice Combs, of course, was trying to de-escalate the situation to help Diddy, playing in an awful position as a mother, and then for some reason Jaguar Wright is displayed in this conversation. So Ariel Mitchell is the lawyer that is for Ashley Parham in this moment. And I don't understand. This one hits different since it's filed, guys, in the Northern District of California, and all the defendants seem to be residents of California, including the John and Jane Does 1 to 10, which I believe are also higher profile individuals that we don't know about. 1 to 10 John and Jane Does. I don't know how Jaguar Wright is placed in this conversation. Somebody help me out. We've got to figure this out. Please, in the comments below, can you guys explain? Because I'm absolutely dumbfounded by this. That all of these people... Odell Beckham Jr., I'm not surprised by it. Because people have been saying... XYZ. We've seen the video with him and Bieber in the club, which looked very odd. He just, it's just very wayward. Drewski, I'm shocked by, because he also has his own show. Jaguar Wright, I'm very shocked by as well. To be honest with you, I don't disbelieve Ashley Parham. I feel like, her story is very detailed, and she spoke about it, and she's come back to add more stuff. I don't see why she would be lying about this. I honestly don't. Let me know what thoughts are, guys, when it comes to this breaking news. This came out a couple of hours ago. An amended complaint names 2 more plaintiffs and several additional defendants, including Odell Beckham Jr., Drewski, Jaguar Wright, Janice Combs, Big Homie CC, and plenty more. Even whoever the sheriff was fake, and even them were giving cash to the neighbor to shut his mouth. It is crazy, guys. Corruption really just goes deep. I'm so, like this, guys. This is crazy. This is crazy. I don't even know how to end this video, but send a tip if you guys wish to. There's a $sign there. You can send whatever you want. It really goes a long way. Comment down below. Give this video a thumbs up. What the hell?